Hi, everybody. This is Foundations of Public Libraries, Library as Place, a course in the State Library of Iowa Core Endorsement Program. This is the Foundations section, and this section is called Library as Place, a big topic. I am your instructor for this session. My name is Angie Manfredi, and I am the Youth Services Consultant for the State Library of Iowa. So what that means is that the majority of my job is consulting with librarians about all the services they provide to children ages 0 to 18 and the caregivers in their communities and in their lives. But I also have a master's degree in library science from the University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And library as place is a topic I'm really passionate about. So I'm instructing this session as well. That's my contact information. You'll hear me say it lots of times, and it's also easy to find, but please feel free to get in touch with me if you want to talk more about anything we cover in this session, or if you have any questions at all about youth services stuff. So library is place. Why do we think of this topic? Well, first of all, what even is this topic? Much less, why do we think this is so important a topic that has to be included in the foundations course? What about this is so important, right? What about this is so important that we think it is like one of the basic building blocks you need to know as you familiarize yourself with this as a profession? And also, it's kind of esoteric, right? Because every place is a place. That place is a place. Every place that we go to is a place. Place, place, place. But when we talk about public libraries, what we're talking about is public spaces. And there is a difference. There's a difference in how a library functions. There's a difference in how a library runs. And there's a difference in what we mean when we say library as place, not a place, library as place. Public spaces function differently. And we have to consider that when we talk about how and why they function. So that's why we thought this is a fundamental concept. You need to know it because you build everything else on it. You build your programs off it. You build your collections off it. You build how you interact with your boards off it. You build everything off understanding the concept as a library as place. But what is, okay? Place yourself. That's the first thing we always talk about when we talk about with this concept. Now, you might notice, or you might wonder where that picture over on the right side of your screen is from. It is from one production of the greatest Iowa musical ever written, The Music Man, written by Iowa native Meredith Willson. It is from the scene from perhaps my favorite song, Pick a Little, Talk a Little, where the lovely ladies of town tell our friends Harold Hill that Marion is the librarian only because the man who had the most money left all the books to her. He left the town the library building, but he left Marion all the books. So if they want the books, they have to hire Marion. I often think this is the perfect illustration of what we mean when we say the library is a place. The library isn't just a collection of things, a bunch of random stuff somebody put in a box somewhere. In the example of this, in River City, if Marion decides that she wants to take all the books and run a library, she can't do it because she doesn't have the space to do it. She doesn't have the building. And if the people in River City decide they don't want Marion to be the librarian, then they have to find how to get all the rest of the books. They work together. Libraries aren't just a collection of stuff that random people can borrow that have been junked together. And libraries aren't just buildings. Libraries and public spaces are more than these things. And libraries and public spaces have to work together, or else you've got you got an empty building with nothing in it, or you got a bunch of books in your garage that you can't do nothing with. So when we say library as place, we mean that a library is more than a building with stuff in it. But what does that mean? What does that look like? Why do we say that? So much of it ties in to a really important concept, and that really important concept is the third place theory. What does that mean? The third place theory was coined by urban sociologist Ray Oldenburg in his classic work, The Great Good Place. And what Oldenburg proposed in this work is that all of people's lives take place in three spheres: your workspace, your home space, and a third space. where you build community. Now, when we talk about children, that workspace means instead of work, we mean school. And it means that all of our lives exist in those three spheres: a work sphere, a home sphere, and then the sphere that Oldenburg and other sociologists have been interested in forever, the third place, the third sphere, a place where we come together in community, okay? And one of the things that Oldenburg held is that third spaces are critical to a functioning civil society, democracy, and civic engagement. That if our lives only existed in the first and second sphere without a third sphere, we would founder and so would our communities. What makes a third space? Okay, there's lots of things. There's tons of theory about this. You can read The Great Good Place. It was written in 1989. It's still a really great book, right? People have developed and built on Oldenburg's idea the way the best ideas are able to do. But some of the qualifications for a third space, when we talk about what is a third space where a community comes together, there's equity of access. It's referred to as the Great Leveler. Okay, so you don't have to pay to get in. You don't have to pay to hang out there. Everybody can access it equally. Nobody gets special access to it. That's a third space. It's accessible and welcoming in every sense of the word, right? It's accessible, like if you're in a wheelchair, you can still access it. If you crawl, you can still have a place where you're welcome in it. A third space has regular users, people who come there often, who know how it works, who think of it as a space where they are invested in it. Third spaces encourage collaboration and creation and conversation. Third spaces encourage communities to thrive and work together and make things together. And the users are invested in that third space. They're sad when it's gone and it becomes an elemental part of their life. They're invested in how the third space is run. They're invested in how the third space welcomes. They're invested in what the third space does. So does any of that sound familiar to you? I hope that it does, because some of the things that we're describing are the best elements of public libraries, which is why Oldenburg and other sociologists and tons of other urban planners and people who talk about things like this have long viewed libraries as ideal third spaces. And that's one of the key things we talk about when we talk about library as place. When we say place, we mean space. And when we say space, we mean third space. This is from an amazing article. I highly recommend you read it. It's from Curbed, which is a blog about architecture and place and location. And this is an amazing article from 2018 called "It's Time to Take Back Third Places." Because one of the things we have observed over time is that third places have become increasingly endangered in our society. In fact, many places, third spaces are almost unheard of because it's become places where you have to pay to hang out, or you have to pay to be a member, or it's not as equally accessible to everyone. But a great third place, that can change a community. So a great third place is active but not regulated, but not chaotic. It's a space where you can happily do your own thing at the pace at which you want to do it. It's a place where you feel welcome. You see people you know and people you don't, which provides the possibility. It provides the possibility of getting to know something or someone you know. It should enable curiosity. I can't think of a better definition for what a library can look like and what a library can be in a community. And one thing we know, one thing sociologists have known since Oldenburg pioneered the concept, since this woman, Carol Coletta, mentioned this in this article. Communities are stronger, they're more innovative, they're more resilient, and they're more attractive to residents when they have third spaces, because third spaces add to the value of a community. And libraries are ideal for third spaces, which means that libraries are ideal for being that element in their communities. So what does that look like? It's a natural fit. It's so much at the core of what we do. And here's the thing. Even if libraries don't want to be third places, even if everything I just said and you were like, yeah, I'm not into that. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I want to just have books and I don't have time for anything else and I don't have money for anything else and I don't have space for anything else. It doesn't matter, because since there are so few third spaces left, Libraries become them by default, which means it's time for us to take advantage of that. Another concept that's really tied into what a third space is, and this comes up on a lot in the literature about it, is a third space should function as a community living room. And I've often told people I can't think of anything that is a better description of what a public library is than a community living room. This is a picture from the Sheldon Public Library, but I know a lot of public libraries in Iowa and everywhere else in the world have things like this. A communal puzzle. Sit down, do a couple pieces of the puzzle, add into them, right? The kind of thing you would see in a living room. But this living room is now for everybody in the community. That's what a third space is. A third space is an area where collaboration, relaxation, belonging happens. And libraries are perfect for that. Okay, this is a picture in the back room. This is like a storage room, back room of the Ellsworth Public Library, but it's also another element. Ellsworth Public Library in Ellsworth, Iowa. And I want you to take a minute and look at this picture. And I want you to see what you see here that ties into what we've talked about the third space. Okay, so one, this has a gaming setup for teens and tweens. Those are gaming video game chairs. Those are Wii games up against the wall, and the TV is used for gaming. So they've used this space to have limited space that they have. Now it's a gaming area for teens. Okay, what else? We see that sign back there that says coffee, 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. Coffee at the library, why is that? Because at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays, they invite people in the community to come in and have a cup of coffee and hang out and talk to each other, right? You might see somebody you know there. You might meet somebody new. You might feel for a little bit, a little less lonely, a little more seen, and a little more part of your community. What else do we see? We see those markers over there on the table. Markers, colored pencils, crayons. Are they used in programs? Probably. Are they used for other things? Outreach? Probably. They're used in something. You can't buy all those colored pens. Look at how many there are. You might not be able to buy all those for yourself, for your one kid, for your one classroom. But now, because everybody in the community has access to these, we'll put them out and everybody has access to 800 different colors. Okay. Those are just a couple. I'm sure you can find more in this, but this tells the story of library as place, of what we mean when we talk about third space. What does a third space look like? This is also the Ellsworth Public Library. I love this. I wish this could be postered wall to wall, country to country. This is a group of tweenagers. They are standing, they're sitting in front of the children's/teen collection at the Ellsworth Public Library. Ellsworth Public Library is not very physically large. It is not in a very large town. And yet these children have come here on this day to hang out at the computers and game together simultaneously. One of them, as you'll see, is not even playing the games. They are watching the other children play. This is a third place. This is the community living room. Not just for these children, but for their caregivers, for the adults in their life, in this community. It says to them, this library has a place where these children are welcomed, able to pursue their own interests, have easy, equal access use. They don't have to pay to be on the computers. They don't have to pay to hang out. They don't have to buy a soda. They're hanging out, creating together, creating a community together. This is the quintessential third place. This is the dream of any library, that we welcome and encourage these people to come and be part of the community by being part of our library. That is the place that we are. But if you're watching this, you survived the year 2020. And for that, I'd like to say congratulations to you. Because I know that a lot of what you might have just heard in your brain, it sends off 2020 warning bells about like gathering together and how can people don't do that anymore. First of all, people will do that again. It is essential to what makes us human. But part of third place theory, remember I told you it's been evolving since 1989? Of course it has. Now there are elements of creating place online, creating a third place in virtual environments. And I hope, if nothing else, the nightmare year of 2020 gave you a glimpse of what that can look like. We can create place virtually as well. We can become a place on the internet that is a clearinghouse for information. Many libraries did this at the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak. They became the place where you could find out where you could pick up meals, where you could find out how to get a mask, where you could find out what the latest information on homeschooling was, where you could find out what was closed and what was open. This is a place. It's a place online, but it serves the same function. And that all takes us back to the larger third place theory. It's not just a physical place. It's the library building in River City without any books. Who cares? Who cares? If those things don't come together to create a place where a community feels that they can get reliable, safe, legitimate information, and also where they can build a community, takes us all the way back to the things that we look for in a third space. Encourages creativity and collaboration. That's what an art craft club you all do together is. That's what a book club you have online is. That's what having a storyline where everybody calls up and hears a story is. All of those elements in third place can still be present in virtual spaces. And it has a lot of impacts for you and your community. It changes how people think of you. It changes their accessibility. Talk about accessible and welcoming. I know not everybody has high-speed internet. I know not everybody has reliable internet and they can't watch your virtual story times. But not everybody has a car. Not everybody is off during the day to come to the story times that you had at 11 o'clock in person. There's so many different ways to think about accessibility that the internet, that virtual resources can help build and welcome in new people. That again takes us back to the core of the third place theory. And it lets us know that whatever unprecedented times we might face, that the library, because it is so important in a community, because it has been so established as a third place, as a place, it can continue in ways that might be new or untraditional or that we've never done before. The one thing we know, strong communities equals strong libraries, and strong libraries build strong communities. They go together. They're natural allies, and it's a cycle. When you have a library that has a strong vibe of being a third place, whether that's online or in person, it adds to your community. It adds worth and value to your community. And understanding that and being able to explain why you are doing things like this and why it is important, that's why we think this is a foundational concept, because understanding that helps you make the case for your value in your community, for your value to stakeholders, for your value to the board. It makes you foundational in your community. That's why we think it's foundational as a concept. Because when you understand that, when you can stand up for it, when you can advocate for it, when you can find the way in your community to understand that you are more than just a building of things that people come in and take out, then you make the case for yourself and you continue to build a strong community. Strong communities make strong libraries, and strong libraries communicate. Strong libraries build and create strong communities. So that's why we tell you library is a place. Every place is a place, but we're talking about the space that's a place. That sounds like a picture book. I might write it. But that's why we think it's a foundational concept. And there's so much more about this to dig into. So thank you for viewing this module. If you are interested in learning more about this, of course, the third place theory is a great place to dig in. I've given you a couple links in this topic, but I'm also happy to answer any questions or elaborate on anything you learned in this video. As well, I also recorded the module in this section about libraries, the principles of a noble profession, which I agree is a mouthful of a topic. And it is tied really tightly with these. I think these two topics go really well together. So that might be another place where you can learn a little bit more about this. And I understand that some of this seems weird and untouchable and unbelievable if you're watching this in early 2021, but it also talks about the universal needs that humans have to meet and create and connect with each other. And I hope that you remember that that is a universal thing. And there are ways that libraries can be present and active in this, even if it looks differently than it has in the past, and even if it doesn't have the same exact way it always used to be. The number one thing you will learn working in libraries is there's nothing like the way it used to be. There's only the way it's going to be. And establishing your library as a place helps you be more prepared to find out what's next and to be able to deal with all that. So that is this module. I look forward to hearing more from you about it. And I know that you are all going to be super prepared to make your libraries the place that's a space Thank you.